Hey Professor Deacon, I've spent the past week or so reading your papers and I really enjoyed them, and I thought that rather than writing out a written response, I would make you this video instead. The video is currently private, but I may make it public in the future, so I hope you like it. I read the two papers you sent me, as well as the one that you wrote for Symbolic Species Evolved, as well as another one you wrote on emergence with Professor Cashman. I've included a bibliography in the description below. I've also been really engaged in watching the conference that you attended, Moving Naturalism Forward. I'm about halfway through it and I'm really enjoying it. I was super impressed by your arguments about emergence, and I really liked what you had to say about symbols possessing causal efficacy. I'll try to expand on that later in the video. Actually, most of this video is going to be about the ontology of symbolic causality. Now, I'm going to pull some quotes from your papers and use them to make some claims that, if I had to guess, you'd probably think are too bold, but I'm gonna do it anyway. A related mystery concerns the extent to which language depends on information maintained by social transmission. The vast quantity and high fidelity of the information constituting even a typical vocabulary stands out as exceedingly anomalous from a biological point of view. How did such a large fraction of our communicative capacity wind up offloaded onto social transmission? And what explains the remarkable reliability of this process? I imagine the kind of answers to those questions that you're looking for are physical, genetic, historical, evolutionary answers. The kind of answers that would satisfy a hardcore eliminative materialist. I would love answers of that kind, and I'm sure they exist, but our access to them is severely limited by our inability to speak of symbols as real, ontological entities. In another paper you write, as we walk on the Earth's surface, our brains are simultaneously wandering through this symbolic world, whose connections are invisible, and yet to us are as real as any physical landscape. So, I don't know how metaphorical you were trying to be there, but I want to interpret your words very literally. Like Teilhard's noosphere, I think that symbols allow us to project our thoughts out into reality and then use them like building blocks to build a world out of. You paint a picture of virtual ecology. At one point you write, "Indeed, a dictionary suggests that language is a bit like an organism, in which every molecule is created by combinations of other molecules interacting." Again, this could be interpreted poetically, but I tend to see the organismality of symbolic language as just as real and alive as a hummingbird, or a flower. This ties back to the three evolutionary explanations of religion you cited from Darwin's Cathedral. It's been suggested that religion could be a superorganismal parasite, but why can't it be a superorganismal symbiont? You describe in the Symbolic Species how symbolic thought allowed human populations to cohere together in a way that was never before possible. At this point, I see no problem in calling a human tribe a superorganism. What's so remarkable about this is that the glue that causes the cohesion is not a semi-permeable membrane or some complex chemical reaction, but symbols, bits in the ether. Symbols allowed us to transfer thoughts from the mind of one individual into the mind of another with incredible fidelity. That may not be a materialistic answer to the heritability question you raised earlier, but it does seem to be the mechanism that we need to track. I don't think that it undermines the reductionist project to talk about symbols in this reified, causal way. I think people are wary of giving symbol concepts causal efficacy because symbolism is so closely associated with religious icons and spirits and magic. But is the fact that the word symbol has so many meanings, so many ethereal associations, really a coincidence? What symbols and magic both do is undermine our common sense notions of how causality is supposed to work. Even if everything does boil down to fundamental physics, the fact that symbols even appear to undermine this causality deserves an explanation. Our use of symbols allows us to empathize with each other, to share in cognition, to feel like we are a part of some being greater than ourselves. And the social organism of language is something that we are a part of, that is greater than ourselves. Language is defined socially. It can't exist in a single individual. When we start to think about human society as a superorganism, it begins to look a lot like ancient conceptions of God. I'll leave off here. I have much more to say, but I'll leave it for later. I hope this video has intrigued you, and let's talk soon.